ولد الهدى فالكائنات ضياء.
Accept it on face value. And so sometimes it's better to clarify these things on camera, so people...
They need to clarify it by coming down here on a weekly basis and seeing the threats and intimidation from Muslims. They want to come and see it in person.
Steve,
because I'm identifying what happens here. That makes me a bigot. What land are you living on?
Did you know that guy was a Muslim? Because he's brown. No, I don't know.
I couldn't even see his face. He had a balaclava on, you numpty.
He was brown. That's true.
He was that brown, actually. He's probably more your colour.
Okay, my colour, which is light brown, right?
Can we compare and contrast?
You saw that, but I'm very cold. Right? You saw that.
So am I.
And you automatically assumed that he was a Muslim, and that proved your case. That's called confirmation bias.
It was.
That's called confirmation
bias. That's why
bias.
He was shouting, because he heard what I said.
There are people here.
No, don't make yourself look foolish by saying, "Oh, how do you know that person was Muslim?" You know as well as I do he was.
Well, I don't know.
So don't play silly games.
I've never seen that guy here before in my life. So how would I know?
This is a silly game.
No, look,
this really is a silly game.
My point to you is this, Steve. Look at that. Please don't be so hateful.
It's a wasting of time.
Don't be so hateful. You're very hateful in your speech.
I'm hateful to Islam, not to you, not to Muslims.
Right, but being hateful to Islam, if you're hateful to Islam and you dislike Islam...
I don't like fascism either.
I have no problem with that.
Can I be hateful towards fascism?
I have no problem with that. But let's have an intelligent conversation
for the camera?
As to why you hate Islam.
I've just realised you are actually mic'd up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely, because I think a lot of people who do hear these videos, they do go away and they listen to what you have to say. And then they can make up their mind as to who they believe.
What's the channel?
EF Dawa. EF Dawa. Yeah? My point to you was this. There are people who behave very badly, who are Muslims and who are non-Muslims. The problem that you have, Steve,
we're talking about Speaker's Corner, and I'm not letting you peddle the lie that there's people of all faiths and none who are being violent at Speaker's Corner, because that is self-evidently a lie. It is non-factual. It is incorrect.
Steve, what you have to...
You cannot... You keep repeating yourself that all people are violent. At Speaker's Corner, which is again what you kept on focusing the conversation on, you do not see violence from people other than
So when
Muslims.
I was threatened by a non-Muslim, you're saying that didn't happen?
That's anecdotal. That's meaningless,
exactly.
apparently.
What I'm trying to say to you is that you don't build up an entire picture from the handful of experiences that you might have had. I've come here I've been coming here for 3 years.
Don't ask me. Ask Tam. Ask Sarah. Ask Sarah Garvey.
I've been coming here for 2 or 3 years, and I've probably seen 2 or 3 incidents which have been of a violent nature. You're saying it happens every week.
And who did those incidents involve?
Muslims and non-Muslims, in fact.
No, only Muslims.
No, look, you know.
So Muslim or non-Muslim violence.
The problem that you have is that you have.
My problem.
The problem that we have, generally speaking, is that when these issues are discussed, and a minority of people do behave badly, and they're behaving out of the character of Islam, then automatically the assumption is, I hate Islam because that's what Islam does.
It's not the only reason I hate Islam, but it's one big part.
But yet, when Islam has had centuries, when Islam has had centuries and centuries,
attitudes to animals, attitudes to homosexuals, attitudes towards women. Do we really want to go off? Well, if you really want to, people that are much more expert on animal cruelty and the ways to treat animals and the way to kill animals, people that are much more knowledgeable than the likes of you are, you and I, so veterinary scientists, the RSPCA, etc. People that advise the British government, party politics that have come up with policy and then laws once they get elected, decided what is the kindest, fairest way to slaughter animals in abattoirs. All of those experts, far more expert than you or I, concluded the way to do it.
Yes.
So that was the way the law was set up.
Yes.
Then along come trundle two groups.
Yes.
One Muslims, one Jews.
Yes.
Oh, we have these religious beliefs that we want to do it in a different way.
Yes.
That was in breach of the law.
Yes.
So what does the British state do?
Yes.
Okay, we'll roll over. We'll just let them do it the way they want to do it.
So do you think
Even though, and let's not start talking about a subject that you're not an expert on,
Yes.
I'm not an expert
Well, you've
on.
brought it up
Let's
now.
put our judgment in those people
In the
that
experts.
are experts,
Okay.
who, study the neurology of animals, understand the pain that another sentient being can sense,
Yes.
and the best way to deal with that, and when you're killing an animal, they've come up with a conclusion that non-stunned halal or kosher
It's
slaughter
cruel.
is not the right way, not the best way to do it.
Thank you for that question. Will you allow me to answer that?
I've probably heard it before, but go on.
Are you aware of, because since we're dealing in science and we should always...
You're going to cut.
Hold on a second. And since we should base our opinions upon scientific research and experimentation and observation, are you aware of the Hanover study on halal meat? Okay, Hanover University did a extensive study on the halal, kosher and the stunning method.
And who was this group?
Hanover University, you can
Oh,
Google
it's a
it.
town. City,
No, Hanover University, right? You can Google, it's on Google anyway, you can search for the experimentation that they did. And what they did is they got young lambs and goats and they implanted probes.
They didn't try it on pigs.
Can I finish my...
They didn't try it on pigs.
Can I finish my point?
Funny that. So I
you
guess
speak.
this was an Islamic
I let you speak.
biased bit of
I let
research,
you
because
speak.
they happened to do it
Okay.
on lamb and sheep.
So
they
now
didn't
you're
use
gonna
pigs.
trash the science.
So, well, no, because there's...
Are you going to let
so
me
how
finish?
do they know more than
Are
the
you going to let me
British
finish?
Veterinary
Are you going to let me
Society?
finish? I let you speak.
Pigs have a different
I let
nervous
you
system.
speak. Let me finish.
Much more tuned.
Let's be fair.
Say lambs and stuff. They're much
So
more conscious, I think.
they
Much more
injected
intelligent.
probes
So
into the
they're-
animal's
they're-
brain
Yeah, so
with ECG
them
and
being in a
EEG
storehouse
monitors.
is gonna be different from, say, a lamb.
Okay? They
a
let the
human being in a
animals
storehouse
heal
is
over a month
Heal from what?
from the probes
There's
being
different
inserted into their
intellect.
brains,
Understand certain things.
and that they slaughtered them
So a
using the
pig is very
halal,
intelligent,
kosher,
intelligent as a dog.
and the stunning method.
Being put through, like, I used to be a
Now,
vegan.
I agree. Let's go where the science goes. Their findings, Steve, quite alarming to you.
It's one university.
Hold on a second. Now you want to say it's only one university. It's scientific.
Because
Hold on a
my
second.
sources are not one.
Can I
My
finish?
sources are
Can I finish?
the entire scientific community.
This is a scientific.
Veterinary
Can I
science,
finish?
neurology.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Finish yourself off.
Okay. So what they found, Steve, pay attention.
I'm still with you.
What they found.
For now, I can't
What
promise
they
for how long.
found is that when the animal had its throat slit, with the Jewish method, the knife has to be so sharp that in one incision, the knife should reach the back of the jugular. In one incision.
When done correctly.
Oh, absolutely, of course. And it should be done by somebody who's trained, who knows what they're doing, not some Tom, Dick or Harry. The Islamic method also specifies that the knife has to be extremely sharp, and the incision was measured to be less than 1 second to reach the back of the jugular. What they found, that the animal almost...
You can't do that on a
Can I-
camel,
hold
though,
on a
can you?
second.
How can you reach the jugular in 1 second when it's a camel?
Let's be sensible
Or
and
a cow?
honest. Let's have an honest discussion.
talking about
here.
little chickens.
Let's not be silly.
Well, how is that silly? I've seen video footage of camels
Look,
and cows being halal
You
slaughtered.
said scientific research. At least be interested in the research that I present to you. Otherwise, you're being disingenuous.
Wouldn't want to be that, would we?
Okay, so it reached the back of the throat within a second.
On what animals? You said sheep.
The sheep and the goats they tested, right? They found that the animal almost immediately went into a sense of, or a position of being subconscious, unconscious. And the animal was seen to be still moving, exercising, to try to push the blood to its brain. The heart was still pumping. Because in Islam and in Judaism, we are instructed that if you cut the spinal cord of the animal, deliberately, the animal becomes forbidden for you to eat. So we have to keep the spinal cord intact. The pain sensory probes, the ECG and the EEG monitors did not measure a spike, because what they found is that because it took less than a second for the knife to reach the back of the throat, the pain sensory nerves were severed. When you prick yourself or you cut yourself, it takes about a second or a second and a half for that message to reach your brain. But because the knife cut the jugular and the sensory nerves, the animals felt no pain. Now let's look at the stunning method. When you stunned the animal, they said that in a commercial setting, often it required sometimes more than one stunning. And they measured a very spike, a peak in the pain sensory probes, right, receptors, when they stun the animal. And the animal was in a state of paralysis. And the observation made, can I just finish first? The observation made was that because it looked like the animal wasn't feeling pain anymore, because it was paralyzed, it was okay. So there's a lot more to the science than you understand yourself, Steve.
But you're quoting one piece of research from one university.
But if somebody
over
shows me,
all of the others.
But this is the beautiful thing about Islam, because Islam says that you cannot cause pain or suffering to the animal before you slaughter it. And that's why there's
the same rule that applies to beating your wife, isn't it?
That is why. Let's deal with the slaughtering of the animal.
Another example of barbarism in your faith.
Steve,
that's the connection.
This is the problem when we have these sort of debates.
What? Someone chips in.
No. Because you
someone
resort,
chips in with the cameraman. The Islamic cameraman chips in with something.
Because you have to move the goalposts.
Maybe that's the problem.
Because you feel compelled.
Can I just point out the Islamic cameraman moved the goalposts?
This is why I find it very difficult to have
Criticize
these
him,
discussions.
not me.
Because when you try to have a sensible discussion,
tell the Islamic cameraman to be quiet.
If you were honest, Steve, what you would actually say to me is, Abbas, you know what? As a man of science and believing in science, that's quite profound.
A man of science.
At least because you said it. You said it on camera.
When I'm ill, I go to the doctor. When I need to have my eyes tested, I go to the optician. I go to experts in their field of science.
As people did in 15th century Andalus, they went to the Arab and the Muslim scientists.
What was the mortality rate?
And the surgeons and the
how many women died in childbirth? I mean, what was the average age of guys?
Can you really have this conversation?
You're trying to compare hundreds of years ago and say, but they were scientifically knowledgeable. Yeah, but most women died in childbirth. They died.
Steve.
No, because you're presenting something that is nonsense.
Steve.
Again, well, if it's a red herring, Steve, it was his red herring.
Let me finish with that argument, and I'll deal with that one afterwards.
Deal with what argument?
So what you should say to me,
what was
Steve,
the average age of death?
Steve, you're missing the point, Steve.
Your point.
It was 15 centuries ago, and it was in relation to what the norms of science were throughout the globe at that time.
Why did you bring it up?
Because I brought it up to you that Islam has a rich tradition of science, of knowledge, of understanding,
so what went wrong?
Of literature.
So what went wrong?
So that's another question now.
What went wrong with Islam
we can
then?
Discuss
it certainly isn't now or the last 50, 100 years.
We can discuss that, Steve.
What went wrong?
But let's deal with the slaughter.
All modern day inventions.
All
modern day inventions and discoveries did not come from the Islamic world.
Steve,
the telephone, the television, the internet, any modern knowledge did not come from Islam. So you all harp back to the past.
Steve,
what went wrong?
What was modern knowledge 15 centuries ago?
Significantly
exactly
backward from what it is
now.
And
what would modern knowledge be in 200 years' time, and which countries might have that modern knowledge? Will that make us stupid today?
So why did you bring it up?
Will that make our scientists stupid today?
Why did you bring it up?
You see how weak your argument is?
Why did you bring that argument up?
The reason why I brought it up is that Islam has a rich tradition
why did you
need
to say that?
Of science.
Why did you feel you need to say that?
Because your stance of I go to scientists and I go to people of knowledge to understand the world is not dissimilar to what Islam preaches and what Islam was doing.
We were talking about slaughter. talking about slaughter.
Yes, so let's deal with that. So when they...
Well, you haven't dealt with it by bringing up one university's one piece of research.
Well, it's a scientific study.
Sorry, Islamic cameraman asking a question. Am I allowed to listen to him and respond? No, I'm not allowed to listen to you.
It's an Islamic... Listen.
You have to wait till after.
It's a scientific study, and if a person professes... Look, that's the beautiful thing about Islam.
Is it a peer-reviewed paper? You know, where was it published? Where was it published?
Go on.
Scientific America. Where's it been published?
Well, go on the internet and
just
look at
Darwa.com.
No. Go on Hanover University halal slaughter.
Yes, but that's not enough. Is it peer-reviewed? Is it in Scientific America? Is it in Nature? Where has it been published? What journals? Where are the reviews of it? You're not dumb enough to know a piece of scientific research, a paper, needs to be peer-reviewed. It needs to be published in well-known sites like Scientific America, like Nature.
Steve, my point to you is this.
Has it or has it not?
I don't know.
Right.
Well,
at least you're big enough to say so.
My point to you, Steve, is this, though. That you discuss these things as black and white. As if somehow you are correct And the Islamic tradition, the Jewish tradition of halal and kosher slaughter, however, is cruel.
There is an argument we should all be vegetarians and all vegans. It's not. I've never said anything is black and white.
And in fact,
it's a scale of what's better and what's worse.
And
on a scale of what's better and worse, halal and kosher slaughter are worse than the methods that our scientists and experts have decided is the best way. But it's a scale. As I say, the next step on that scale is that we should be vegetarian. The next step on that scale is that we should be vegan. And we could stand and argue for those cases as well.
Are those scientific studies, Steve?
Of what?
Saying that it's cruel.
What, halal non-sun slaughter?
Yes.
Yes.
Where were they published?
Across the board, to the point, Scientific American, Nature, to the point that the government decided, not just the British government.
Where were they published?
Okay, give me a second and I'll let you know.
Oh, so basically,
you don't want to let me know. I don't want to let you know.
By all means, go investigate it. You made a point, but you yourself don't know where they were published.
Again, this is the weak argument of Muslims. It's like saying, do you know what page of the Quran that's on? You don't? Oh, well then, it's nonsense. It's a pathetic, lazy argument.
So I have to
Again, applied by Muslims.
I have to give you my argument where it was published.
Because you were citing one individual study.
Right?
You were citing one individual study.
You don't know yourself. That's what we call hypocritical, isn't it? Really?
I know the British veterinary.
Okay, please find out where it was published. And what was
and then what will you do? And then what will you do?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. And this is the beauty about Islam. Islam is about lessening the harm to the animal. So if you can find a method that is least damaging to the animal and keeps the animal healthy for human consumption, then the scholars would say adopt that way. But you don't have that, do you?